Hello, welcome. Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 30 Types of Social Movements, let us start our lecture with topic the ideal typical characters of new social movements. Most of the NSMEs base their ideological conceptions by inputting a duality between the state and the civil society. The assumption is that the social space of civil society getting increasingly shrunk. The social of the civil society is being systematically eroded by the penetration of the expanding tacticals of power and control in almost every aspect of life. What more is disturbing, the reality is that the expansion of the state coincide with the overlap upon the process of expansion of market. The institutions of state and the market grip the civil society so tenaciously that the society is rendered helpless in their combined pressure of surveillance and control. NSMEs therefore emerge in the self-defense of the community. The state, in the name of public interest, attempt making encroachment at almost every aspect of the private lives of the individual. It is perhaps on account of the all-round attack of the state and the market on civil society, the diverse forms and the types of NSMEs, urban, ecological, anti-authoritarian, anti-institutionalist, feminist, anti-racist, ethnic and regionalist have sprung up in the contemporary society. The site of struggle have shifted from the traditional workplace of industries and factories and fields and farms. The basis agenda of NSMEs is to establish a post-bourgeois, post-industrial, post-materialistic democratic civil society. Such an agenda is indeed a new phenomena in the contemporary, the post-modern world. The NSMEs radically alter the Marxist paradigm of explaining all forms of social conflict and contradictions in terms of class and class conflicts, a point we have suggested earlier. The Marxist system of the explanation of movement and change in society could not account for the issues emerging from the questions relating to ecology and environment, gender, race, ethnicity, etc. Marxism treated all forms of struggles as class struggle and all forms of social conflict as class conflict. It went far beyond to assert that human cognition and the consciousness is fashioned by the material forces and conditions of society. Further, it went to treated all forms of social groupings and organization as class grouping and class organization. It may be realized that many types of contemporary struggles, such as those of anti-racism, disarmament, feminist and environmentalist movement, are not class struggle, nor do they reflect movements of classes. The grouping in the above movements are not class grouping, they often go beyond class confines. Marxism as a method and a general theory of expansion in social science is in a shambles. At the face of the new social reality, it has totally collapsed both as philosophy as well as methodology of science. Marxism saw all form of conflict located in the class structure of society. In the contemporary setting of societies, conflicts spill over space wider than the space of classes and often crossing over the boundaries of a nation and society. Contemporary movements are transcultural, transnational, and transpolitical systems of the society. NSMEs raise questions and issues of universal nature relating to future of the humankind. Their goals and values are global and overarching the width of mankind. Their agenda include issues relating to disarmament, peace, nuclear pollution and nuclear war, issues regarding the defense of the planet, ecology, environment and human rights. The ideological paradigm of NSMEs go beyond the confines of materialistic determinism and successfully overcome the inabilities of Marxism. With the collapse of Marxism, it became evident that the class background neither determines the identity of the actor nor defines the nature of its stake. Therefore, NSMEs generally abandon the industrial worker model of union organization as well as political model of political parties. With the exception of the German Green and the Green Party, most of the NSMEs evolve grassroots politics, initiate grassroots actions, micro movements participated by small groups and struggle for localized issues and questions with a small institutional base. The new movements generally produce horizontally organized democratic associations that are loosely federated at the national level. According to the Cohen, and the NSMEs target the social domain of the civil society rather than launching an attack on the economy and the state. The chief social characteristics of the NSMEs are seen in its self-limiting nature. According to Cohen, they are self-limiting in four senses as presented. The first is generally the actor of NSMEs do not struggle for the return of the utopian undifferentiated communities of the past. The actors struggle for the autonomy, plurality and difference without rejecting the egalitarian principle of democracy, parliament, political participation and public representation of its juridical structure. The actors make a conscious effort to learn from their past experiences, to relativize their values through reasoning, except in the cases of the fundamentalist expressions of the NSMEs, and finally, the actors in the NSMEs accept the legitimacy of the state and the formal existence of the market. Now let us conclude the unit. We have tried to identify social movements as a specific form of conflictual collective action, the structure of conflict and their typology suggesting their linkage in some cases with the different form of movements have been discussed and highlighted in some detail. There has been an attempt to convey to the readers that the nature and types of social movements are related to the nature of the representation of society. The representation of society defined mainly by capitalism, industrialism, materialism and modernism generally gave rise to classical, neoclassical or old social movements. The transformation of society from capitalism, industrialism, materialism and modernism to post-capitalism, post-industrialism, post-materialism and post-modernism gave rise to an altogether new forms of collective action. We refer to them as NSMEs. Social movements at this juncture get divided in two different types, namely the old and the new social movements. The new social movements went under subdivision into different subtypes. The major subtypes have been those of exclusivist and inclusivist types of NSMEs. Each of these two major subtypes of NSMEs is divided into separate types. It may be remembered that no system of classification is complete and perfect. The relevance of the classification is defined by their ability to and effectiveness in simplifying social reality and help rendering their explanation. The application of classificatory principle of resemblance and difference has to be carried on with caution, keeping in mind the nature of social reality one is classifying. Here we have come to the end of the lecture and as well as unit. Thanks for listening.